Hey guys, it's Amelia, but not the pilot, just Amelia. It is time to talk about this series. So, I have just went on a month-long exploration, maybe 2 months I guess, of reading the entire Sarah J. Maas Throne of Glass series, and boy, was it a mistake. This is part 2 of the video, so if you haven't seen, I talked about the first half of the series in the other video, and in this video will be my vlog content of the second half of the series. Let's get into it. Here's the vlog. Before we start, I just want to state that this is 100% going to be filled with spoilers, so if you haven't read the series before, maybe don't listen to this vlog. It is the 15th of February and I'm about that much through, like 200 pages maybe, which is pretty good. I did that like all in one night essentially. I didn't get to read it all yesterday because I was doing another reading challenge, my Shakespeare reading challenge, so I didn't get to read. And so today I thought I would just, before I get deeper into this book, talk about my thoughts so far. First off, it's too long. Second off, I'm remembering the plot and I don't care about it. Third, I don't care about the witches at all. I just don't care. Every time we get to their part, since it keeps switching perspectives, we get to the witch plotline and I just could not care less. I don't like that they're supposed to be like super vicious, like heartless people, but then the main perspective we're getting from the man and witch lady, she does have a bit of a soul, and so I feel like it contradicts, like, but she like thinks that she's evil, but then she does sort of nice things, and I don't get it. It doesn't make sense. So unless that has something to do later on in the plot, which I don't think it does, it doesn't make sense. So I don't like the witch writing section is so painful to read. I like literally am like, oh, can we please get through this? It's so boring. Kale and Dorian are back at the castle. Kale's trying to escape his father, and Dorian is slowly falling in love with this little apothecary woman, which makes me a little sad because I still think my like overall prediction was that like Dorian and Aelin will end up together and unite the worlds, because Aelin is a fae queen and of Terrasin, and then Dorian is the Ardalan king, and then they would get married and solve a lot of problems, right? And they like each other. Be perfect. Also, not Aelin saying like, no, I can't date you anymore because I don't want to have to deal with the royal stuff. Meanwhile, she is a royal. She's going to have to deal with it. So that's just what I'm saying. But I think Aelin comes back and then sees Dorian with the girl and is like, oh. I think. Other predictions. I like that each book she has a different man, and in this one she has this Ronan guy, or Rowan. It's very funny to me, and I'm hoping that she has another man in the fourth book, like a different new character. Because first book we had Dorian, second we have Kale, and then third we got Rowan. I just think it's really funny. The Rowan chapters are probably the most interesting ones, like all of the Aelin Rowan stuff, but also they're very dramatic. I feel like it's like every time we get to her, she does a little training session, and instead of making it just like a boring training montage, so I'm glad it's not boring, but every single time we get to her, she's like, I'm dying. Rowan doesn't care, but I'm dying. But he really secretly does care. And I just think it's funny how like messed up she gets in every single chapter. Alright, that's all I got for now. I'm gonna try to finish this book. I'm supposed to finish it by today. It's not gonna happen, so we'll see. Bye. Okay, so it's the 17th, and I only have 100 pages left in this book. I'm almost done, and I just gotta get my thoughts out about it so far. This book sucks so bad. It is so boring, and I think I finally pieced together why. So, first off, there's 4 perspectives going on, right? We got Dorian, Kale, Chol, whatever his name is, the witch Manon, and then Selena, Aelin, right? Okay, 4 people. I only care about Aylin's plotline, but not even really. It's so boring. I am convinced this is Sarah J. Maas's Deathly Hallows book. It's a lot of camping, nothing happens, and then big battles at the end, right? So there's a lot of sitting in the woods doing nothing, big battle at the end. I cannot stand it. So first off, Kale's plotline is essentially he is becoming a rebel spy, right? He's befriending Adian and then giving Adian information and trying to find stuff out. He learns nothing. We have maybe 50 pages, 100 pages left in this book. He has done absolutely nothing. I don't know why we keep going back to his plotline. There's nothing there. It's obvious what's happening. Like, there's no forward momentum at all in this entire book. There's no forward momentum. There's no character wants is the main problem. Like, what does the character want? Kale wants to keep Selena safe. He wants to keep Dorian safe. Both of those things are currently true. There's nothing he could do. Done. He's reached his wants. There's no reason for him to be in the story. Next, I guess you could say one of his wants is not going to his home, but like, that's such a minor plot point. Like, she never made it weighty enough that it matters. We've made it through the whole book and he still hasn't gone to his home. I just can't. Next, we got Dorian. Dorian's character I really liked in the last two, but in this one, he's fallen really flat. He's literally just a prince, and now he's got magic. He's not learning about the magic. He's not doing anything with the magic. He only has, like, 5 chapters. Like, there's really not that many times it goes back to him. Like, it barely happens. And his whole plot is just this, like, weird little love story with this girl in the healer wing, which is cute, I guess, but I also feel like, personally, I'm rooting for him to end up with Aelin in the end, because I feel like it just sort of makes sense. Like, she's the Fae Queen with all this power. He's, like, the soft-hearted little prince boy. They met each other a really long time ago. They've been reunited now. He chose her from the mines, and they had a little fling, but then she turned him down, which I'm gonna get into in a little bit. But, like, they would unite Ardalan and Terrasin, which, like, works because, like, his dad murdered her parents. But I ship them. I feel like that should be the end goal. I feel like it just makes sense story-wise. It wraps everything up. But who knows? Maybe a new male character will be unlocked in book 4. Let's find out together, I guess. So meanwhile, Dorian's plot is just him falling in love with this girl, which is nice, I guess, but pretty boring. And then the most exciting part is that they, like, figure out this tonic thing for his magic, but then nothing's really happening with that. So I'm sort of excited for his chapters, sort of don't care. Kale's chapters literally just want to skip. Now, the witch chapters. I have such a problem with these frickin' witch chapters. They are so boring. And I figured it out. Here's why. Manon is who we're following. She's the witch. And they describe the witches as being utterly unhuman. They are, like, ruthless. They don't have feelings. They don't care about each other. They're very obedient and loyal and, like, hard soldiers. And they are bloody and ruthless and, like, kill everything. And so it starts with Manon, like, just killing random people for fun and having delight from that, right? But then as it's slowly introducing her, like, friends, I guess you would call them, her mates and whatnot, and the rest of the witches, and more interactions that she has, she becomes very human. She is taking in the underdog dragon thing, the wyvern. I don't know how to say that. Is it wyvern? Wervin? Dragon. The dragon thing. She takes the underdog dragon under her wing. She cares for it. She makes sure it is okay. She wants to lead it. She has that very human need to want to be the best. Like, she needs to do this to, like, to prove herself and make her family proud type of deal. She has this very, like, human bond with her 13 mate people. Like, they all watch each other's back and they're like sisters and they actually care about each other, even though they, like, beat each other up. Like, they care about each other. Like, it's just
so contrary that I just can't stand it because it's so poorly done. And on top of that, it's just like, I just don't care. It's so tropey and boring that you know what's gonna happen and you don't care about the plot anyway, because the only reason her plot is there is to show you that the king has hired the witches to go ride the dragons. That's all you need to know, and we pretty much knew that from context clues already. That was already explained in book 2, that we knew that there were wyvern dragon things in the mountains, and we knew the witches were pretty bad. It would not have been a surprise if all of a sudden in book 4 or 3 or whatever, that all of a sudden the witches are riding the dragons. We'd be like, okay, cool, let's move on. I don't need this whole backstory. I don't care. My only thought is, why are they introducing this character when I feel like she's going to be completely irrelevant in the next book? I could not see Manon being important at all. I sort of feel like they're going to take the wyverns and then maybe just like go off and live their lives instead of helping the king. But that's still like, then why are they even in this book? The only other thought I had that could make the witches slightly important is that Aelin killed Baba Yellowlegs or whatever her name was, which was like one of the big old witches. And so they're definitely gonna have beef with Aelin for killing the witch, right? Which they have not brought up again. I don't know why it's not being like hinted at, even thought about. They mentioned that Baba Yellowlegs was killed like twice, and the witches were like, that sucks. And then they moved on, which was weird. But I guess it's supposed to show they're ruthless. But I guess I'm hoping that there's some sort of battle between Aelin and Manon, I guess is the only thing I could foresee happening, that she would get an entire plot line in this book, because it is so boring. I wish I could skip every Manon chapter. I do not care. And yes, I have read the 3rd book already all the way through before, like a year, 2-3 years ago, but I don't really remember it. But even so, it's like so obvious what's happening that it's like, this doesn't need to be here. Finally, we get to Aelin's chapters. And this is like, I would say, the most exciting part of the book, but at the same time, sort of annoying. I don't really care. Because what's happened in this book is Sarah J. Maas has written all of these characters so flat and one-dimensional that it does not matter what they do, it is so boring. And Aelin's parts specifically are so tropey. Every single chapter or section that she's in, when it goes back to her perspective, she's up on the mountain with Rowan beats her up or she gets hurt, and they're like bonded, and then that's it. That's the entire thing. Every single section, every time it comes back to her, that's what happens. They go up to the burrows, she's supposed to defeat the white, she instead gets attacked by this thing, and he's like, oh no, maybe I shouldn't have done that. They go, she runs away, and he saves her, and they run away together and defeat the skinwalker. It's like, same thing, again. They go to the cave, and he makes her save her friend to prove a point, but then there's a bigger animal. And then we have the bonfire night. She has to light the fires and keep the fires going because he's mean to her, but then she almost dies and he cares for her. Like, it's the same thing. It happens every single time. I am tired of it. It's the only vaguely interesting thing in this entire book, but it's so boring. I cannot stand it because nothing is happening. There's no progression in this entire book, and it's 600 pages long. It's such a waste of time. I met a girl on the train yesterday, and she saw that I was reading this, and she approached me, which was very exciting. I love meeting book readers and talking to people. It's very exciting. And she was like, oh my god, have you read them before? And I was like, oh no, like I'm like trying to get through this one. It's so boring. And she was like, yeah, I know that one sucks. But then she was like, but after this one, it gets really, really good. So just stick it out. And I was like, okay, girl, if you say so, I'm going to believe you, stranger I met on the train. I'm really hoping the 4th one picks up, because the 4th one is when I gave up reading the series. So we'll see if it's better now. Maybe I have to push through that one too. Maybe it's the 5th one that gets really good. But I think one of my main problems about how Aelin's character has fallen so flat in this book is that she has become really one-dimensional, but she represents so much. She has struggled her entire life. She was born, and she already has problems because she has this insane firepower that her aunt wants to, like, harvest her for, essentially, like, raise her. And then Her parents are murdered in her bed at a young age. That sucks. She has to run away and ends up becoming an assassin. That sucks. Her soulmate true love is killed as a setup and she's unable to save him. That sucks. And then she's set up and sent to an enslaved encampment, which sucks. And then she's at that, she is an enslaved person for an entire year, which sucks. And then when she's finally let out, it's to go kill more people, which sucks. Say it with me, guys. She has a nice little, brief little moment where she falls in love with Dorian, but then she decides that she doesn't want to be a queen, which, like, good on her, I guess. It's just too many things holding her back, so I'm glad she got out of that one, I guess. So, she dumps him, which sucks. And then suddenly a spooky ghost lady from another world says that she's the chosen one. That sucks. She starts dating the best friend, which is a little crazy of her, a little wild. But he turns out to suck, which I don't understand why to this day she's thinking about Kale, because he was not that good. I really don't think he was that good to her. Like, I don't understand it. I really do not understand that relationship. Like, they dated, it was honestly sort of weird because he's best friends with Dorian and she just dated Dorian. Also, he's such a goody two-shoes and she's like the opposite of that. Maybe that's why it worked, I don't really know. And then he's awful to her. He never really tells her everything because he doesn't trust her. And then on top of that, as Dorian points out in this one, he doesn't accept her for who she is. And then he sends her off because he doesn't believe that she can take care of herself. And he sort of ruins everything. To be quite honest, Kale is the entire reason that this book sucks. It's because he sent her away. And she had to go to this dumb fairy place. She has to kill a few more people in the second book, which sucks. And then she gets to the fairy place, and that life also sucks, because she's like, now I'm in this conundrum. How am I supposed to kill the royal family that's actually my cousins? Like, I can't do that. That sucks. And then she meets the queen, and the queen fairy lady is like, I want to use you as a weapon. And that sucks. And then now she's working with Rowan, who is the worst person, and he is awful to her and plays on all of her insecurities and trauma. She has so much trauma. Her entire life, everything that I just described was a trauma, and he comes in here and just is like, let's inflict more pain on those traumas. You don't need help. And I feel like the book is trying to make a point. Sarah J. Maas is trying to make a point and is not quite getting there. It's giving me Dementors from Harry Potter. It's giving me, like, that sort of, like, internal struggle, but somehow she's missed the mark, and I don't know. Her best friend decides that she has to die a martyr to get her to start doing stuff. That sucks. And I just don't, like, there's that weird metaphor about the candle not going out, and it just doesn't work because it's too straightforward. Like, yeah, okay, everyone's heard this little light of mine. Like, we don't need to write a book about it. And then Rowan's just awful to her, and every time he tries to train her, he just is like, I think I've figured you out. Let's go inflict more trauma on you. This time, I'm gonna have you save your friend. Like, they never address why her shifting hurts. I feel like that should have been addressed. They never address shifting enough. I'm so confused by everything. Like, why do some people have a form of an animal and she has the form of a human? It's so strange. But then also, why is she sometimes healed when she shifts, but not all the time? They don't really address that either, because the one time in book 2, she shifts, and then when she shifts back, all her injuries are gone, because when you shift, it, like, fixes everything. And then also in this one, he, like, bites her, and then when she shifts, it, like, automatically heals. But then the rest of book 3, it's, like, inferred that she's in Fae form for a lot of stuff she's doing with Rowan, or, like, it'll be like, I shifted at the beginning, but then it never tells you when she's unshifted, which is weird. And so she's walking around, but then she's not healing, and he mentions it at one point, saying, like, oh, you should have, like, sort of healing capabilities, and then they never talk about it again. It doesn't make sense. Nothing makes sense. I also don't understand shifting as in, like, her fae form should be her, like, natural state, right? And so she would shift into human form is, like, technically natural, right? Because Rowan's always in his fae form, and when he shifts into his animal bird form. So are there repercussions that she's been in her non-fae form for so long? But also when magic disappeared, why would she stay as the animal thing instead of her fae form? Lots of questions. So I've got a lot of problems with this whole shifting thing, but mainly the fact that he, like, doesn't ever ask her why she has this trauma. It's like her entire trauma is built around shifting. She's so scared of it. She's so scared of what she's going to do. She doesn't know her limits, and he never addresses that, which is just awful. Another problem, they're training this whole time. She's clearly gotten better, but he still doesn't, like, immediately bring her to the queen to be like, hey, we gotta move this plot along. Can we go now? Which also, I've remembered that there's some sort of plot where she gets to the queen and the queen grants her one wish or something like that, and her wish is to, like, release Rowan from his bind, but then I think she becomes bound to the queen or something. I don't know. All I remember is being like, this is dumb. They recently mentioned in one of the chapters I just read that there's this, like, bonding thing, which reminds me of Parabatai from Shadowhunters, which is, like, a warrior bond thing where you could steal powers from each other to help each other get through the war, and I know Aylin's gonna do it with Rowan. They haven't been in, like, a romantic relationship yet, but I swear there was one. And to be honest, this girl's, like, collecting men like Infinity Stones. Like, okay, Aylin. We got Dorian in book 1. We got Kale in book 2. We got Rowan in book 3. Who's gonna be in book 4? Post your comments below. I also swear there was, like, a tattooing scene, and that hasn't happened yet, so I'm a little confused. So currently, I just read the, like, battle chapter. Like, the Captain Norik comes with his Valg people, and they fight, and oh my god, it was an ambush, and oh my god, Rowan's over here. This isn't about you, Rowan. We're focusing on Aylin and her Valg battle thing with her fire, and she never reaches the bottom of her magic. It would have been cool, but it wasn't. I don't really know where she went wrong writing this, but it was just not it. The Valgs seem like knockoff Dementors. They feed off fear, they're full of darkness, and they're cold, and they make you really sad, and they 100% represent depression. Like, they just do. Which obviously Aylin is struggling with, because she has all this trauma and PTSD of all her family and friends dying, and she has those moments in this third book where she describes just, like, shutting down, like, completely turning off when Rowan says, like, terrible things to her, which is all the time. Rowan is so awful to her, I really can't. She deserves better. My problem with the whole Valg attack thing, it's 100% the thing at the end of Harry Potter where he could see his parents again. Like, that literally happens. Aylin sees all the people that have died for her, that she's sad that she's let down, and they all say, like, get up, keep going, which I don't think is funny, that this get up thing is, like, a common theme throughout the books. It happens at least once a book, and I don't think it's that, like, inspirational, but I know it's trying to be. I don't like it. Another thing that I absolutely abhor, Rowan and Aylin's mind speak thing. It's described as them just being on, like, such a same page type of thing that they just look at each other and their expressions are saying sentences. Let me see if I can find an example, because I hate it. Alright, I found an example. This is on page 428 for those of y'all following along at home. It said, so out loud she says, "You actually called for aid?" And then it says, "His eyes narrowed. I just said that I did." In quotes is what he says from narrowing his eyes. And then she stands and he retreats a step. And from that, it's inferred that she says, "What changed your mind?" And then he says, "Some things are worth the risk." But this is all just from looks. They're just looking at each other. It's so cringy. I hate it. Also, it's just like what? There's no, like, the sentences are too long to be a realistic conversation that you could have with someone by looking at them. Like, it does not make sense. And maybe it's some sort of fae thing, like, they're just so in tune with each other, but I do not like it. Another fae thing that I do not like, primal instinct things that keep happening. They keep describing females as, like, that was my woman, and I'm like, no, you don't own people, thank you, move on. Or they're like, I'm just so protective around females. And I'm like, just stop. It's so weird. But it's got this really weird, like, dominant male thing going on where, like, the men get really protective whenever someone is hurt. And so they'll growl at other people. And I don't like it. Also don't like when he bit her. That was weird. In conclusion, not a fan of this book. It really sucks. I think at the moment I will be giving it 2 stars, which is quite low for me. I really only give books that I hate like 2 stars. So yeah, I don't like this book. I'm trying to remember how this book ends, and I really can't remember. The only thing I think I'm still missing, they just did that Bond thing where they become parabatai. And then from there, I think she gets tattoos. I still think they make out, but maybe they don't. And then he brings her eventually to the queen, and with the other cadre people, his, like, army guys. And I feel like the queen's like, haha, I tricked you. And then all the cadre people are, like, have to fight her or something like that, but they don't want to because they like her. And so it's a struggle, but somehow she overpowers them and tries to get them to escape, I think happens. And then in the next book, she's back in Ardalan. Thank God. But God, this book is so painful to read. They better get better. I'm trusting you, train lady. I'm really trusting you. Alright, I'm gonna go finish this junk. And I'm gonna start Assassin's Blade, I think, next, which is technically the prequel to the whole series, but I was told to read it after the 3rd book, according to Google. Alright, there better not be any more witch chapters, otherwise I'm gonna be pissed. I'm gonna be so pissed. So, I'm gonna go read. Bye! Good morning, it is the 19th, and I did indeed finish this 2 days ago now? Yeah, I forgot to film yesterday. Anyway, so Heir of Fire, my review. Everything happens in, like, the last 50 pages. I think that's poor writing. I don't like when books do that. It pisses me off. I don't know. I still feel like you could completely skip this book and it wouldn't have any effect on the plot because nothing happens. I guess it just felt like set up for the next book is what happened. Like, it didn't have a plot that really mattered in any way, shape, or form. Kale is going to Anel, and Dorian is now captured by the king, and his lady friend was killed, which is, I forgot happened, but I'm sort of glad, but I mean, it was sad, but like, I'm glad she's out of the picture. Adian is captured and will be killed, I think, and then Rowan is bonded to Aelin. Rowan is bonded to Aelin now. Aelin is going back to Rifthold because she has to go find the key and meet Arabin and all that jazz. What I don't understand is that they sent Selena Aelin to that Wendelin place in the first place to go kill the royal family, and she was told to do it within a month, I think. She clearly spent longer than a month, and also did not kill the royal family. Now she's going back, and they haven't addressed that at all. Like, she failed her task. The king's gonna be mad. I'm assuming she's not gonna go back to the king and be like, hey, I didn't do the job you gave me, because actually I'm the Queen of Terrasen. I'm assuming, like, that's the plan, because she's just like, yeah, I'm not working for you anymore, sorry, I quit, here's my 2 weeks notice. But I don't know, like, what? They just completely left that plot out. Never once was Aelin like, I really have to figure stuff out because I am supposed to be back in a month. Completely abandoned the plot. Immediately abandoned it. It was like, Sarah J. Maas set up this plot in book 2 and then started book 3 and was like, I don't really want to do that anymore. At the end of the book, Rowan is so annoying, but I like that they made it so that he has to stay there. He can't come because he's magical.
okay, sure, get rid of him. My predictions for the next book, for book 4, is that, which, mind you, I've read maybe 100 pages of it, so I haven't read the whole thing. I don't even think I made it halfway through. I've only made it like maybe a third. Things that I remember happening that still haven't happened, and I'm sort of confused. Maybe they happen in the 4th one. I remember the tower falling in the castle. Like, I remember someone breaks the tower. I thought Dorian broke the tower, but maybe not. I don't remember Kale going to Anel, or Anil, however you say it. So maybe that doesn't happen. I think he just stays in Rifthold and fights in the sewers or something. Like, all the rebels are in the sewers. That's where they're hiding or something like that. I, like, vividly remember people running around in the sewers. I remember, Aelin running around in the sewer as well, but I remember her, like, being mad with the rebels. Like, she doesn't like them, and she was mad at Kale. When is she not mad at Kale? I don't like Kale. I don't know why she's still whipped for him. I don't like it. And then, after finishing the 3rd book, I now remember what's going on with Dorian. I totally forgot this happens. So Dorian now has the collar on, and now he's evil, and he's controlled by the king. And I remember there being a confrontation between him and Aelin, but I remember it being from Dorian's perspective, and it was like he could see glimpses through the collar type of thing, but he couldn't, like, control himself, so he was, like, freaking out. Rowan doesn't come back. Maybe he will. By the end of the 4th book, I feel like Rowan maybe will come back to reunite everything. What else happens? I think she has a dual showdown thing with Arabin, where she, like, pays him, like, what she... Because I don't think she ever finished paying him back for raising her or whatever. So I think she pays him, she steals the necklace, something goes down, maybe he dies. Adian, I'm pretty positive, tragically dies at the very beginning and never gets to meet her. Maybe. And Kale's like, hey girl, what's up? And she's like, go away. Those are my predictions for the 4th book. But first, I am reading prequel book, Assassin's Blade. I just started it yesterday. I finished the first, like, story, and now I just started the second one. My predictions for Assassin's Blade, I'm assuming it's just gonna give us a lot of backstory that was referenced in the other books, like the time she stole a horse in the Red Desert, the time she and Sam fell in love, I guess. I'm hoping we're gonna get, like, some more Sam backstory, because the first section was just talking about this pirate run they did, where they went and, like, destroyed an entire pirate island. Like, Treasure Cove, completely gone. She wiped it off the map. Which was fun, but it was also weird because their relationship was essentially non-existent, and then by the end of it, they're hugging. And so I didn't really feel like the build-up made sense. Like, I know Endgame, they're supposed to be, like, soulmates in love, but then he dies. But right now, it just seems like they hate each other, and then suddenly she's like, yeah, I'll give you a hug. I like you a lot. And it's like, where did that come from? They still don't seem that close. I don't know. Anyway, it was cute. I'm hoping to get more Sam stories. I'm hoping that's what happens. And my only thought is that maybe Sam is back in the 4th book. I can't remember, but I almost feel like he is, even though he died. I'm a little confused. I do like this Assassin's Blade stories a lot better, because I think they're more concise, they're wrapped up really nice, they move the plot along real fast, because it's only like 2 chapters or whatever. So I'm enjoying them a lot. Hopefully when I get into this 4th book, it will similarly not be as painful as the 3rd book. Other things of note that happened in the 3rd book, I like that she had one of those classic hair chops. I feel like that's such a weird young adult fantasy trope that, like, something big happens in their life, they cut their hair, or their hair gets cut off, or something like that. And is it relevant to the plot? No. Was it mentioned? Yes. Her hair is mentioned, like, randomly, sporadically throughout the books, and it's always so strange. First hot sec, I thought her hair was really long in the cover, and I was like, they didn't even pay attention. I hate these covers. You know what I was thinking about yesterday? They're all the same. They are all the same. It's her with a weapon on the front in armor, and she's standing there with gray hair, which I'm confused about because I thought she had blonde hair. Her with a weapon, with her armor on. She looks, it's the same. It's the same cover. They're all the same cover. It's the same thing. Like, kudos to that illustrator. You made some money. I'm proud of you. But, like, also, I hate these covers so much. Nothing about these tells me Throne of Glass. They're all the same. You could interchange them. You could interchange all the covers. No one would know. How would anyone know? I also hate the titles. And I wonder if Sarah J. Maas, like, started this trope of young adult books being named, like, Heir of Fire, Crown of Glass, or whatever the things are, right? Because a lot of young adult fantasy books are like that. But did she start that? Or did, like, that just was a thing, and then they're all like that? Because the titles are not memorable. The only way I'm telling these books apart is the colors of the covers, because all the covers look the same and all the titles sound the same. So we have green book, orange book, red book, yellow book, you know, like, and that's not how it should be. And that also makes it harder for me to tell apart what happened in each book. They're all blurring together, you know? But I was just thinking about that. I don't even think I could name all of the books because they all sound the same. But the only one I really know is Throne of Glass, right? That's the first one. Then there's like Heir of something, Storms of something, Kingdom of something, Glass of something, Castle of something. And then the other words are like Storm, Fire, Air, Glass, Water. The four nations together in harmony. We got like Throne of Glass, Fire of Air, Air of Fire, Glass of Castle, Castle of Water, Glass of Water, Kingdom of Ash. I just don't like them. Her other books are like this too. A Court of Thorns and Roses or whatever. Court of Fire, Court of Air, Court of Blood and Ash. Like, I hate these titles. They're so dumb. They tell me absolutely nothing about the book. Was there a Throne of Glass in this book? I guess, yeah, the king's throne. But, like, was that the most important part of the story? No. Crown of Midnight. I don't remember there being a Crown of Midnight at all in that book. Don't know why it's called that. Then we have Heir of Fire. That sort of makes sense. Aelin's the Heir of Fire. Spoiler alert. Queen of Shadows. I guess that makes sense. She's the queen. She's in the shadows. Pisses me off. Anyway, I'm gonna go read the next book. I don't even know. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Editor Amelia here. I realized that we are not going to have just 2 parts of this video. There will be 4 parts because I talked a lot about these books. So there will be 4 parts. Please stay tuned. Part 3 will be coming next week. Bye!